Active day one with no picks, and here the Texans head into day two with 5. It is S&L, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Shout out to the people that joined us on the stream yesterday. We're going to be live again for day 2. We're going to be at Karbach on Saturday for day 3, and the t-shirts have arrived. They're here. So we will be there. But let's just hop right into it, Cody. Thoughts on what the Texans did yesterday, what Nick Caserio said, and where the heck they go from here?
The Texans clearly worked the phones and tried to go up there and get a couple of different players. It seems like Nick Caserio just didn't find any takers. And it's worth noting that we did not see a lot of trade downs and movement backwards in this draft. So it looked like it was pretty hard to pry some of these picks away from some of these teams. And Nick Caserio ran into a wall where he couldn't get the other side to say yes, and he didn't want to overpay. And with that, he just had to sit there and kind of hang out. And he mentioned at the end of the teens is when he kind of really started to think they may have to go backwards. He ultimately gets the deal done with the Giants. I approve because we've talked about this for a few days now. There's nobody outside of Kelvin Banks Jr. that I was really excited for before the draft to trade up and go and get. And then they had a 1-pick opportunity if they wanted to go and try to get Tyler Warren. The Dolphins picked Kenneth Grant, and then boom, Tyler Warren's off the board. So he found it very difficult. He made a solid move. He got good value in a trade back when he didn't like any of the players that were on the board. And now he rules day 2 with the additional draft capital that he was able to add from that trade back. I liked it. I don't feel like they missed out on any of the players that went 26 through 32. And here they are ready to just dominate day 2.
Yeah, he said that they tried to trade 3 times. I wonder if it was for one guy or if it was for multiple guys. I think that's kind of when he says in the teens and the late teens is when he realized that they weren't going to trade. I just wonder, like, he's never going to tell, but like, who were the guys that they liked? Was he disappointed by it? I heard that perhaps Dallas was not willing to take picks from next year, which would make sense because the trade that we saw the Texans make before the draft was for picks this year, and they traded even further along than next year for those picks. So I think if you were looking at a trade with Dallas for 12, they weren't on the same page because both want picks this year. So that probably squashed that. And then
12 was for Tyler Booker. That's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, if they were going to make that trade, maybe they were going to trade up for Tyler Booker. Maybe they liked him that much. I don't know. That 12 seems pretty early for Tyler Booker, but I mean,
12 seems early for anybody that they would have traded up for.
Unless they liked one of the receivers and they really, really, really liked one of the receivers. But yeah, I would agree with you based on value. That would be the case. Maybe they like Matthew Golden. I don't know. There's people in Houston that seem to hope that we're hoping that Matthew Golden would fall. Green Bay finally takes the receiver. So there's that.
Based on the fact that Caserio started to think he needed to trade back at the late teens, the players that went off at 18 and 19, Gray Zabel and Mecca Egbuka, and then Caserio starts trying to put together a trade back. Feels like they probably, if they thought they really wanted Golden, they knew they needed to go up and go get him. So I can't imagine they were that
who they would have wanted in the teens. Like maybe it was
Gray Zabel and Mecca Egbuka.
Maybe, I don't know, or it was just one guy and they were trying to trade up in multiple spots. Like when he says try to trade, when we had 3 deals on the table, that doesn't mean it's for 3 different players. It could mean that he tried to trade up for this guy here. He tried to trade up for him again. He thought he had another deal there. So I think when we start,
in my opinion, when
we start listing like multiple guys, it gets kind of a little bit weird. The value has been something that's kind of been brought up as well. And there was really no quarterback tax for the Giants to trade up with the Texans, which whatever. The value seems fine, especially if you're going to trade back, especially in that area. But then you see the Atlanta Falcons give up a first-round pick to the Rams. It's kind of dangerous to use the Atlanta Falcons as a reference point for what normal should be. because they don't function like a normal organization. They said no thank you to Bill Belichick so that they could hire Raheem Morris. They basically had a one-on-none negotiation with Kirk Cousins that resulted in paying Kirk Cousins and giving him all the leverage when I don't know that that was necessary. They've traded an array of draft picks, and they traded up. And quite frankly, I didn't even think a first rounder was a possibility until we were watching the stream and they said, oh, they gave up a first rounder. So I almost feel like, yes, you look at it and you wonder, and I wish Nick Caserio would have been asked, did Atlanta call you and make that offer for the first round pick? Like, you wonder. You also know that they're trying to get picks this year, but you also can't really use Atlanta as the norm and some sort of measuring stick for what reality is, because they are functioning like a very, very, very foolish, reckless, unaware of assets, as Mike Meltzer put it yesterday, organization.
Yeah, Atlanta being a bad football organization doesn't make the Texans trade with the Giants a bad trade. Like, you're trying to connect two things that I don't think totally and wholly connect. And Atlanta clearly knew they had to sort of pry that pick away from the Rams. And yeah, it'd be interesting to know if Caserio ever got the opportunity. If he did talk to Atlanta, was there ever a conversation about, oh, okay, you guys want to get back in? How far back can we go? It's worth noting when Atlanta's trying to come up, like when they started their desire to come up in the draft or started thinking about it, Caserio was initially still working to come up as well. Because if he starts thinking trade back when he gets to 20 or so, or the late teens, Atlanta's starting to work the phones.
Boy, you really took that mid-teens and late teens to as gospel, right?
Should he lie about that? I mean,
no,
he never reveals stuff like that. So I think it's notable that
is some damn whatever the guy's name is. What's his name? Sherlock Holmes. That's some Sherlock Holmes stuff. So he was never in the same range as Atlanta. Is that what you're saying? Like he was trying to trade back.
Well, he's trying to trade up while they initially start the conversation to trade back. So how did they even cross paths?
I mean, I don't know whether they did.
Hold on. Is it not important that he talked about the late teens? Why are you making fun of me talking about this?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it seems like you got a lawyer hat on there. I don't know. I take what he says and I kind of try to make some sort of sense of it. He said he had 3 deals. I don't know if that means if he's trying to trade up. I don't know if it's one guy. I don't know if it's multiple, but you just said that, well, he wasn't trying to trade back when Atlanta was calling. Well, how did Atlanta know that the other guys were trying to trade back? Is there like some sort of, I mean, you pick up the phone and you call. So it's not like Atlanta was
like, he starts putting the deal together with the Giants and has the deal ready. Why does he even ever have the conversation with Atlanta?
Well, I mean, if Atlanta called, that's the whole point is, did Atlanta call?
Yeah, I started with, I wish I'd known if Atlanta called. Did you miss that part?
Yeah, but then you started like some story, like some sort of alibi for
whatever.
him.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Then you put together some sort of alibi for him.
Like the guy never talks about this kind of stuff. He reveals. That's when I started thinking about moving back, and you're acting like it's a useless piece of information.
No, I just don't. It's a lot of information. It's a hell of a lot of information. I'm just trying to make sense of it.
The Falcons said last night at 16 they wanted to come back in.
Yeah,
that's when they knew they wanted to start coming back in.
Correct.
Caserio wasn't thinking about going back at 16.
That's mid-teens, though, right? So do you know the specifics?
He said late teens.
Mid to late teens is what he said.
Okay.
So do you know the specifics of it?
Okay, you're just parsing words now.
I'm asking.
Here. Move to the next topic. This is ridiculous. I can't believe if we're gonna do this all day. Round 2 is gonna be real fucking fun.
I'm trying to make sense.
I don't understand how you just ignore this like it's not important. It's dismissive as usual.
No, I'm not ignoring it. I'm actually saying that Atlanta's not like
upper teens is what he said.
Called him. He said mid to upper. He said mid to upper when Kunkel asked him.
I would say middle teens, middle to upper teens.
Yeah. So I'm just asking. So you think that the reason that the Atlanta thing didn't happen is because they didn't think that he was gonna trade with them?
I think the reason the Atlanta
don't get mad when I ask you to explain yourself.
I think the reason the Atlanta conversation never. I think the reason the Atlanta conversation never happened was because he already had the deal done with the Giants, and he said, "Well, if they take my guy at 24, let's pull the trigger."
Okay, so they didn't call. Then that would be then that would mean they didn't call. I just didn't know. It started out as I wonder why they didn't call. You explain why they
I don't
wouldn't
know if
call
they
or
called
why
or
they didn't
not.
call.
I
That was
don't
a
know
hell
if
of
they
an
called or not.
explanation.
I don't know if they called or not.
Who knows?
mean,
Landry
once
Locker,
the-
Cody
once-
Stoots with you.
I mean, they make the trade pretty early on in the clock. So once the Giants are on the clock, you're not having the deal feels like it was pretty much done with the Giants. And then when Donovan Jackson comes off the board, they make the move for the Giants pick. So
Yeah, but I don't know when Atlanta's trying to call. That's the other thing. Because the other thing Atlanta said, and you brought the press conference to my attention. I went and listened to it. Was they wanted if Walker wasn't there, they would have taken Pierce. So they were aggressively trying to get up afterwards to get Pierce. So I don't know who Atlanta does or doesn't call. Like do you call the Texans before you call the other squad? Is it a last second thing? Is it a setup thing? Do you dip your toe in the water? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know.
The Rams also had to trade a late third to make that deal happen.
Yes, they did. So do you think that the Texans got a better deal than the Rams?
No, obviously a first round pick is better than what the Texans got.
Okay. Yeah, I think we agree with that. I just don't know if they wanted to trade up, trade back. I was just trying to make sense of all that information. I was trying to catch up. I didn't know if there was something that was said.
Yeah, catch up a little bit. That's fine.
I'm catching up. So
you need to take some notes?
No, I'm trying to catch up on what you're saying.
You're just dismissive of what I'm trying to lay out.
It's explained. Like you're acting like you work in Texans PR or something like that. Like yesterday, you didn't think the first round pick was a good pick, and today it's like, well, they didn't get the offer because Atlanta didn't want to do it. And I just asked you to explain it. You're getting all whiny about it.
I didn't say that Atlanta
didn't whiny about it. Wags on the super chat says, "My guys, man, wish I could chill with y'all Saturday. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. At Karbach Biergarten. We will be there. We want you to be there as well. Pizza, pints, all that. Jaguar12 says Texans trade out at 34. Someone jump for Shedeur. I don't know if anyone's jumping for Shedeur. I don't see the path for Shedeur Sanders right now. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe someone falls in love with them. Maybe someone trades up. If someone's trading up for Shedeur, you brought this up yesterday, Stoots. I thought it was an excellent point. It's got to be at 33 if someone's going to trade up for Shedeur.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to trade up for Shedeur and the Browns aren't interested in him, then 33 feels like a pretty good move. You don't want to get into – I mean, you'd love to get the deal done, not get in a bidding war, because if you let it drag out, maybe the Raiders get interested, maybe the Saints get interested. You could sort of eliminate things if you go and get 34. Once it gets – or 33. Once it gets to 34 – it's potentially a bidding war. Obviously, it's potentially a bidding war now, but if you made the trade before, you would know that you don't have to worry about it.
On the chat, Jimmy Crack Corn says the league is laughing at Nick. I think the league's laughing at Atlanta right now, more so than Nick. I don't know that Nick's really getting laughed at. I don't think anyone thought that was like a crazy trade. And if you're functioning that they really wanted their guy and they didn't get him, then sometimes it happens like that. But I don't know that I haven't really seen too many people like laughing at Nick Caserio and what he did or didn't do.
I don't think the Texans have been really criticized much. I mean, I understand somebody be like, oh, well, that team behind him got a first round pick. Like, I can understand throwing that in there. Most of the criticism's been on the Falcons doing something that most people believe no other team was going to do at that point, which was not only draft James Pierce in the first round, but trade back into the first round using a first rounder in the future to go and get him. I have a question about the quarterback tax conversation, because there are some people that have said the Texans didn't get enough and there should be a quarterback tax.
Mm-hmm.
Does that apply to every quarterback trade ever? Or to me, it feels like quarterback tax is really something that you only usually pay at the very top when the team has no other option. Like the Giants have a different option. Like the Giants didn't have to have Jackson Dart for 2025. Like they have two quarterbacks on the roster that are going to play this year.
Yeah, and I don't think that lowers the price. If there is,
the QB tax is a blanket and doesn't matter when you should have to pay more because it's a quarterback. I think it matters more at the top of the draft.
I think typically you're probably the quarterback tax is the quarterback tax. If you know someone's trading up for a quarterback, then you try to get as much as possible. The nerds that I hear, and I mean this endearing, consider myself one, are saying they should have gotten that early third as well, at the very least for the quarterback tax. That's what I would say. I don't think that, like, I don't think that teams, when they're calling and they know that the move is made for a quarterback, I don't think they say, well, you got to give us more. I also think that sometimes the quarterback tax comes into play when more teams want that quarterback. So I think that would have more to do with it than the state of anyone's roster. Is the quarterback popular? Like, in other words, if I don't think the price would change from, I don't know, like the freaking name a team with a crappy quarterback situation, like the Saints or the Bills. I don't think it would change. I don't think that the roster matters, but I think the popularity and the demand of the quarterback might matter. But some people do think there is a quarterback tax, and maybe if you know that a team is looking to get a quarterback, especially if they're looking to trade into the first round, you get extreme max value. That would be how I would put it. I don't think they look at the Giants and say, we don't got much.
My thing would be like, okay, if the popularity and the potential for other teams of the court, like who else do you anticipate would have been able to go get the Jackson Dart situation going?
No, and that's the whole thing with I don't know that anyone else would have even wanted him. So yeah, that kind of goes to the point too. I think demand has as much to do with it as what's on the Giants roster, I would think.
Yeah, I just don't know if like the QB tax should be like a blanket every time a quarterback's involved in a first round trade, you should pay extra. Like, I think that each situation has like a little bit of context to it that's necessary.
And it's based on the roster.
I think like if you ask for more and the Giants say, well, we don't want to do that, then you have to pick at 25.
Nick Crawford says, people that are upset about the Rams getting a first, just remember that Kenyon Green was a first. Take a breath, grab a beer, and I sincerely hope you're happier after today. Well, I mean, they're going to make some picks today, and they're good at day two. So I haven't really seen a lot of disappointment. I mean, there's been a mention of it, but I haven't seen like a lot of disappointment. I haven't been out on the streets as much, but I haven't seen like a ton of disappointment in what the Texans did or didn't do.
And the disappointment centered around like, oh, I wanted somebody that was off the board before the Texans picked. Like, I understand that disappointment if you really liked Golden or one of the linemen that got picked and you felt like they should have traded up. That's not how I feel, and I liked the trade back. I feel like they got good value. They won on every trade chart from the beginning of time to the current time. Everybody says that they won from that standpoint. And we can parse over, should they have gotten this extra pick or that extra pick? The Giants have to be willing to give it up. Did Caserio ask for it? We don't know. He does seem to like to kind of make negotiations just happen. I mean, he went from whatever I'm sure his initial offer was to Derek Stingley to, oh, hey, now Derek Stingley's $5 million more per year better on the contract than the last guy. It feels like he's willing to just kind of get the deal done. It doesn't seem like he's a big haggler.
Why do you think he was frustrated yesterday? Did you see any frustration from Nick Caserio?
Yeah, I think he's pissed that he couldn't get a deal to move up for somebody that he liked.
Do you think maybe the fact that it was out there that he was it was one of the worst kept secrets that I think every NFL insider kind of piggybacked on? Do you think that maybe he was a little bit annoyed that was such common knowledge on top of what you just said?
My guess is they hate the fact that any of their info is out there. Anything.
So, like, do you think it happens because I don't think Caserio is telling Diana Rossini, hey, I'm trying to move up. I want you to put that out there. Do you think maybe there's like other organizations that aren't as like courteous that tell him? Or
I would like,
because that would piss him off. I think that would piss him off.
If we're playing where's the info coming from? It's not coming from Nick Caserio. It's coming from anybody he talks to. Yeah, they're blabbing on him because that makes the more people that know a team wants to move up, the more they might ask for it. Because if you start to find out here that a team really wants to move up from a bunch of different places, well, it's like, okay, well, let's see how much I can really ask them for. Maybe I don't love the idea of moving back, but if they'll give me this, then okay. They probably had those conversations with Caserio, and it probably affected his negotiations.
Rohit H9.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Shout out to you. Hope to see you tomorrow. Karbach, 11 a.m. Biergarten, day 3. We'll be talking about all these day 2 picks with the peeps. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. in the Karbach Biergarten. Be there or be square. So now let's get to the 34. We've talked about what they did. We're going to try to get a little rest before these super streams. S&L live at 5:30 before the draft. Hopefully Cody gets a nap. What should they do at 34? What do you want the Texans to do at 34?
I want them to draft a wide receiver.
Which one?
I want them to draft Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins is an interesting one. The Knoll was an official 30. They've interacted with Higgins a little bit, correct?
Correct. Combine was the last time. I mean, it didn't seem like he took a 30 visit, so Combine feels like the last time they spoke with him.
Yeah, we've spoken of Higgins. I feel like Matt Campbell and Kaylee would exchange good information on top of Caserio. They've already talked to Iowa State. I can already see this happening if they draft him. He is nothing like Xavier Hutchinson. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be awesome. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to suck, but there is no similarities in the manner in which they play, the manner in which they were looked at heading into the draft between Xavier Hutchinson and Jaden Higgins, outside of the fact they both went to Iowa State.
Yeah, Xavier Hutchinson doesn't matter at all in the Jaden Higgins conversation to me, and it shouldn't matter to anybody.
See, I want one of the Ohio State running backs. I think this is a perfect opportunity. You're basically sitting where you would. If you want to move up and get someone after you do that, that's fine. But I think the running back run is going to start before 58, which whether it's Henderson, whether it's Judkins, I would like to see them get one of those running backs and then be somewhat aggressive in figuring out what you want to figure out. But I think with where they are there, I think if you walk away with one of those guys and you draft them in the second round, which means if they are really, really good backs, it's going to be very, very cheap at a very impactful position. I think you get one of those guys. So that would be my vote. Get one of those Ohio State running backs, and then maybe you can trade up and get the receiver or offensive lineman that you wish to get.
How far are you willing to move up? Because obviously, which depending on how far you want to go, it changes what you dip into in that third round draft pick. I don't believe they're taking 5 players. I believe that they're probably going to take 4 after one trade up. That's kind of my guess here. Yeah,
I think you can maybe you probably wait to after 40 and then 45 and then figure something out. If you want to trade up, if you like one of these receivers, or if you like one of these offensive linemen. But I'm with you. I would say 4 would make more sense than 5 as far as players. And I think almost every need is addressed. The dark horse, and people are asking at what point do you consider defense when you have these extra picks and the value is setting up such to where, there's Eamon Warrior's still there. You have Will Johnson. You have some intriguing defensive names. Is it still all offense, or does the best player available start to really, really, really get interesting with D'Amico no-O, and just improving that defense and continuing to do that?
I have zero interest in a defender before 79.
Yeah, it's just at 58, I could see them being intrigued if something happens, maybe even if this corner thing continues and everybody neglects them, but who knows? Trill Kick X says, once again, it's Higgins time. You'll see. He seems like a very, very popular.
I would guess that he's at least on a handful of teams' board, the top receiver on their board right now. Obviously, Luther Burden's going to be on plenty of people's boards as well, but I would think that Higgins is at least the top receiver on a lot of people's boards here as the second round gets going. And Daniel Jeremiah said he expects edge and wide receiver to be the early nod here at the start of the second round.
So edge and wide receiver. Okay. I mean, he's pretty informed. So if we're talking edge, then with the Jeremiah list, there's a couple of interesting names. Like, are you going to go to Marshall and get you an edge? Is that?
I'm not interested in any of these edges.
No, I'm talking about in front of the Texans or.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Mike Green, Donovan Izaraku.
Yeah, Izaraku from Boston College.
Yeah, and then you have that, and then the wide receivers are obviously Burden and the Iowa State kids, and then all bets are off there. But
so you're trying to place like, it's what 34. It's like you're trying to place 14 or so players, 13 or so players, like kind of trying to figure out, like, are there enough edges? Throw in a defensive tackle, throw in, maybe the first tight end of the day off the board, and you're trying to kind of figure out, okay, could something that the Texans really like or want get to them at 58?
Yes.
Or they need to make a little jump. Because if you're telling me, let's use your running back situation. They draft a running back. And then it's like, okay, Higgins, Burden, Knoll, there's 3. Couple of edge rushers, there's 5. Let's call it a tackle, there's 6. Let's call it a tight end, there's 7. It's going to come back around. Defensive tackle, say 2, there's 9. It's going to come back around to a position that they might like before they get to 58.
Yeah, and I haven't been big on Burden at 25, but I mean, when you have the extra picks and you're sitting there with where they are, like it might not be. It's not the worst thing to do if they're comfortable that he likes football enough and they can figure some stuff out. You could do a lot worse than Burden. He's kind of adds like playmaking ability. 2024 was awful. I get it. Maybe they do some information on that, but it could be. You could do a lot worse than him in the second round, especially when you've stockpiled all these extra picks. Kind of a swing for the fences.
He's a dynamic player. You want to get the ball in his hands and get it in his hands a bunch of different ways, from screens to swings to short passes to letting him run routes down the sideline. He's not my favorite, and he had the Instagram post last night at 12:30, 1 o'clock or whatever. He was out on a practice field inside. He was in a practice field inside working out. He had his cleats and his helmet and all his stuff there. But then he also had his, really expensive slides on. He had his Mercedes keys laying there. It's like, yeah, I forgot you were a guy that they basically had to convince every year to stay with NIL.
Yeah. Let's be honest. You weren't hitting the field right after. That's like when Kobe Bryant used to go shoot right after the game when the media just happened to be out there.
Hell of a pose, though. Hell of a pose.
Yeah, hell of a flex. So we'll see. I think the Iowa State guys, keep a close eye on them. Wide receiver will definitely be a popular topic, and then all of a sudden the offensive line mafia, they come out. They're here.
My question to you is, he was clearly, if you believe Tyler Booker was the target at 12 or in a trade up, most people see that as an overdraft at 12. Even with the Cowboys picking it, they still see it as an overdraft. If he was willing to trade that far up for an overdraft, it's not out of the question he's taking an offensive lineman at 34.
I wonder if the Cowboys was about Banks and they just ended up setting on Booker. That's like if they were seeing what was up with Banks.
It's the only combos ever happened prior to Banks's picking.
Yeah, because it's always a slippery slope when Caserio is like laying out all these scenarios and these trade ups. So I just wonder if maybe it was a Banks trade up, because I don't know, man. Like if we were sitting here right now and they traded up to 12 for Booker, I don't feel good. Like I actually feel like it would be a really, really, really irresponsible thing to do. I just don't. I maybe it's.
Do you feel the
additional
same
value.
way? Do you feel the same way if they overdraft a lineman at 34?
No, not really.
Okay.
That's doing something with stuff that you got extra and you're trading back and you got extra picks for it. But trading up, whatever the cost would have been from 25 to 12, pretty expensive. And then drafting a guard, it's kind of, I mean, there's no, like, you can make a case like at 12, if you draft a wide receiver and he ends up being your wide receiver 2 or a solid top 3 receiver and a good wide receiver room for 4 years, you can say, well, that, it could have been worse. If you're trading up that heavily for a guard, he better be a bad son of a bitch. Like, that's just, maybe that's unfair, and that's an unfair way to look at the position. But if you're trading up that much for whatever it would cost, and you're taking the guard, it's one thing to just take him at 12 if you're the Cowboys and you think your interior offensive line got roughed up last year, and you have to go against Philadelphia twice a year, and you're going to have to go against the Giants twice a year. And Washington's defense has gotten better. So it's not an ideal scenario for you. So you got to improve it, but it's a complete other thing to aggressively go up 13 spots, draft a guard, and give up picks when you're probably decreasing the chances of getting a running back or a receiver.
No, I mean, I was not in favor of any trade up for any guards. I even one spot to Minnesota to get a guy. The one in favor of it. I'm just saying it should be on people's radar that at 34 they take an offensive lineman, and when you look around, all the draft nicks are saying, well, they took him kind of early. Like, that's absolutely something that's within the realm of possibility for them.
Oh, it is.
No,
I'm not putting it past them.
There's not one best available list out there, regardless of who your favorite person is, that's got an offensive lineman in the first 10 or so selections as far as best available. So
no, it's not close. It's not like the offensive line. And I think maybe that's what they were surprised, is that they liked the guys that had been mentioned and they all just got swallowed up quickly. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was as simple as Banks, Zabel, Booker, and then, oh shit.
If they were surprised that there were going to be a lot of offensive linemen drafted in the first round, then they didn't pay attention to last year. Because there were 9 offensive linemen drafted last year. And quite a few of them actually were overdrafts. People kind of felt like the Jets overdrafted their guy at 11, that the Saints overdrafted their guy at 14, that the Bengals and the Steelers, and definitely the Packers, ironically, at 25 last year, all sort of overdrafted their O-linemen. So if they thought that there was just going to be a handful of linemen come off the board, last year showed us at least a few teams in the league were willing to just kind of go ahead and take that guy. I don't know why you wouldn't have felt the same way this year. Can I give you a fun stat that I went and looked up here about offensive linemen, first rounders versus not first rounders?
Yeah.
So Pro Football Focus isn't everything, but it's something, especially when it comes to evaluating offensive linemen. Top 5 rookies in pass blocking, run blocking, and overall offensive line play. 4 of the 5 were day 2 guys or later in pass blocking. In run blocking, the top 3 guys were day 2 guys or later. And in overall, 5 of the top 6 were day 2 guys or later.
That's a stat right there. And to piggyback on that and localize it, the Texans have had the most top 2 most invested in the offensive line the last 4 years, and it's been a shitty offensive line. So
yeah.
that's what's that. Like obviously, you want the evaluation to get better, but I get a kick out of people who've been with us from the beginning, even going back to when we started our radio careers decade plus, and there's still like a feel from some, not everyone. I'm not trying to generalize and get on a high horse, but there's like it's like, well, you got to draft an offensive lineman. Like, it's like, well, you've seen them do that. You've seen them invest heavily in the offensive line.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the Steelers took a center in the middle of the second round last year. Worked out really great for him, actually. The
Chiefs have done pretty well with their center that they drafted.
Late second, yeah.
Patriots made a living out of
That's
finding
another
offensive
thing. We've
linemen.
talked about that at length on this show. The Patriots' offensive line, when Cole Popovich and Nick Caley were overlapping in New England, was a first rounder at left tackle, but the left guard was a third rounder. The center was an undrafted free agent. The right guard was a fourth rounder. The right tackles was a sixth rounder. One year they used a seventh rounder at left tackle. Like, they're not afraid to grab a guy and coach him up. And frankly, based on just last year, I need to go back and look at 23-22 as well. Like last year, coaching up guys was actually the move instead of drafting them really high. Like Joe Alt, he was the can't miss guy. Okay, you drafted Joe Alt. He finished ranked very highly at a lot of those stats. The other guys, it was the Steelers' second-round center. It was the 49ers' third-round guard. It was the tackle that the Ravens took right after the Texans took Blake Fisher. It was the tackle that the Raiders took right after the Texans took Blake Fisher. It's a little bit of a trend here if you're catching that. It's like they seem to be pretty comfortable with this coaching staff fixing guys or coaching them up. And they may not feel like you have to have the absolute best talent to do it, which, okay, that's why we're here sitting on day 2, rounds 2 and 3. They might be drafting a guy then, and maybe they don't reach for the offensive lineman because they like their coaches.
Yep. It'll be in wide receivers can make the O-line better too. I think that's kind of a myth. There's like a hard-nosed football mentality where it's like, oh, it all starts in the trenches. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, it didn't hurt Joe Burrow to get Jamar Chase instead of just going offensive line. Didn't hurt to have Joe Mixon in there instead of Dameon Pierce running the rock. So skill position guys can make offensive linemen look better. Better coaching can make the offensive line look better, and a better scheme can make the offensive line look better. So
isn't the hope that they're already better at the very least 2 spots?
That is the hope, but
well, Laken Tomlinson's a better football player than Kenyon Green.
No, yeah, I think so. I think the concern is on the tackles, but yeah, it's almost as if Shaq Mason and Kenyon Green are getting treated like they're fucking Wade Smith and Nate Newton or something like that, just because they're gone. And it's like, how do you replace them? Well, I don't know. Fart and put something on the field. Like, yeah, it's not. It's
and at right tackle. Also, I would say, like, I would think second year Blake Fisher's better than. Oh shit, we had to put him on the field because we had to move Titus inside.
Maybe.
Like, I'd hope.
Who knows? We'll see. We will see. On the soup, we have a called shot from Sean.
Ariantre Ursery from Minnesota. Tackle.
34. Okay. So we're going tackle at 34. Board.
I don't like Ursery for the Texans because he doesn't help them in 2025. He's a guy that he needs seasoning. So he doesn't help them in 2025 because Cam Robinson and Blake Fisher are better than him right now. Now, does he have the potential to be your starting left tackle in 2026 and beyond? I suppose he does if you're making that level of investment in him, but I don't think he helps you in 2025 in any way. And I've been very adamant that I would like most of these picks to help in 2025 and have a role in 2025. I also feel like Ursery's got a chance to go 33 to Cleveland.
Yeah, they need a lot. They need offense for sure. Trill kick X. If they wanted O-line, why trade back and not pick?
Because there weren't any O-linemen to pick. They didn't like Josh Connerly, and Josh Simmons, they didn't like him. So there weren't any O-linemen to pick. And again, both those guys are tackles. My belief is they want a guard or a center.
Yep. It'll be interesting.
And then
see what they do.
If they could grab a guy and develop a tackle over the next couple of years because they grabbed the guy late, then maybe they luck out that way.
All right, so we're going to get ready. We are 50 minutes away from the live stream. Again, the trade was made. Sudden Vortex on the super chat.
Swarm.
Hope to see you at the party on Saturday at 11 a.m. Karbach, appreciate you, my friend. Real quick before we get out of here, Sean had an interesting question in the chat. He thinks Seaman Mori would be a great pick considering Ward is in the last year of his deal. I don't think Cody or Landry would care for that pick, though. I'm not completely against it. I actually wonder, like, are we positive that Kalen Bullock is an every down safety? Maybe this is the Jalen Petrie after 1 year type of vibe. Maybe he's best equipped to be in on passing downs. I wouldn't like pound the table for it, but at 32 or at 34, stranger things have happened.
It'd be very curious draft pick with the addition of CJ Gardner-Johnson and the extension of.
Oh, it'd be weird.
Petrie.
Oh, it would be weird.
Be very curious.
It would be very weird. All right, so we got y'all covered. We got about 40 minutes. We'll be live yesterday. Thousands
5:30
through. We'll be live at 5:30. Locker room right after. Shout out to Mike Meltzer for joining. We'll see what the Texans do. Nick Caserio, he's not scared, but does he know what the hell he's doing? I think that's a question that a lot of people have. Does Nick Caserio know what the heck he's doing? So keep an eye on that. A lot of Luther Burden love and a lot of stuff to keep an eye on. You're looking like there's some sort of news or something. You got some big news?
Well, if somebody says no, he doesn't know what he's doing, I would just point to last year and be like, well, he did pretty good when he picked on day 2. Like that's my favorite thing about people pissed about the trade back is they forget that like the draft continues today and second rounders are allowed to be better than first rounders. Just ask Kamari Lassiter, who was better than most of the first rounders last year.
Just look at their whole day 2 history. Day 2 is kind of where they do their thing. So let's keep an eye on this. Let's enjoy it. Let's take it in. Day 2 has always been my favorite day. Texans Cap knew that. So we will check it out. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. We will talk to you shortly.
You can sleep good. Be good. Talk Texas again soon, but just 5:30.